I think I got one question in at the end of the. I was barely there.
Yeah, you make it sound like it. I mean, it's not because I was doing all the talking, but I had to do
No,
all the talking.
like
Yeah.
I couldn't. It's like I don't. I wasn't there.
Where
were
were you?
know. It's like I was just noticing 1,000 different things that had nothing to do with, and then my brain would.
Yeah. Well, we need you to be present.
I think part of it is the distribution. Everything we were talking about, I'm like, deer in headlights, like, just run me over, just kill me now. Like, I don't know where to start. It's like a nightmare to even talk about us trying
well,
to
it's
do
a lot. And I guess,
of it.
so you're sitting there thinking, holy shit, you mean I'm going to have to make a phone call?
I'm not.
How?
I can't. I cannot make
So
a phone
I guess
call.
our movie will never come out because you won't make a fucking
No.
phone call.
If someone
else does
makes
it
the
for me,
introduction and then I'm introduced to the person,
if someone
then-
else does all the work and makes the
Then
phone call, I'll be
I
on the phone
cannot-
call, but I won't make the phone call.
I cannot. Yeah, I have mental issues that I don't want to just get into.
I don't want to get into them either, but apparently it's my fucking life.
I will gladly support
Oh, support me doing
your
all
efforts.
the works
I will back
that you
up.
don't want to do. Oh, you'll back me up.
I just can't do phone calls.
You're being my hype man. I'm here to tell you about our movie. Yeah, boy, I'm here to talk about the movie. Do it. Can you do the hype? Welcome to Film Reverie.
Emma doesn't like the idea. It's gonna come off so fake in like 80s, yo, Balling Ewok here. Don't you know I'm always bringing you the slaptastic rap.
Slaptastic.
Nating slapper, bracky clapper. I'm making up words because I'm so excited about our new project. And you just gotta, come on, man. I just start degrading. I have no idea. I think
hold on. I changed my mind. I don't want you to be the hype man. Yeah.
I will answer the phone and take messages for you or some shit like that, but I am not going to handle the, I'm the super mega ultra producer guy. And,
guy.
I got something for you. I can't.
I got something for you.
I can't.
I'm the producer guy. I got something for you.
The biggest thing is we have to figure, what do you call it? Switch our minds into a state of where we're doing things and having projects that are we're not. I don't know if we can say that we can be proud of, but we have to.
You act like we're not proud of our movies.
No, I'm saying
we have to make things we're proud of. Like I've done that every time. I've done that every time.
Even they say in the, because this is before the thing.
Yeah.
But you have to, you kind of have to think of it as a business and make instead of making the thing your heart desires wants to make, you kind of have to figure out, okay, what can make money, what's the target audience, and then go for that, and then it's easier to sell something that you actually think the people you're talking to will like, as opposed to, here's this thing that's my baby, will you please take my baby, give me money for my baby? So I don't know your baby.
I don't know your baby. Will you take my baby, give me money for my baby? I don't know your baby.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, that's my baby.
Well,
no, sir, don't mean maybe.
Don't mean maybe? I didn't know you were doing a song.
That's the song. Yes, sir, that's my baby.
Don't mean maybe. Ah.
It's olden days. Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, don't mean maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess that's the shift we're making is we need to kind of take some time and make movies that we think other people would be.
You mean that we're proud of?
I didn't have the right words for it because it didn't prepare any of this that I'm saying. So it's easier to pitch something that you've already worked into the mechanism of we think they will love this, and that people will pay money for it, give us money to make it, and all of that. So anyway, that's the shift we're making and getting into, but it also requires us doing all this stuff like this paperwork, and we got to do some marketing, all that stuff we don't want to do, but we're gonna just have to do it.
Yeah, it's that stuff that we talk about in our Friday shows where like you can't let yourself get intimidated by the thing you don't know.
Or hate. Yes.
Or hate, yeah, because it has to be done whether you know how to do it or hate it or not.
Right.
Well, that was a downer. Okay, everybody, quiet on the set. 105.
Film Reverie Podcast, take 105!
And action.
In 3, 2, 1. Hey! Hey, how's it going, everyone? What is film?
Okay, stop. Hello, Film Reverie listeners. This is Michael Beckermeyer. I'm joined by as always with whoever that was. Is that
Harry Carey here.
That's what's that guy's fucking name?
Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell. That's Will Ferrell from Saturday Night Live.
But that's why you do the intro, because I ruin it.
You ruin it every time, yeah.
Yeah.
Today we have Exit 44 Entertainment with us, who is. You keep hitting that first.
I didn't mean it to do that.
Which is, I forgot to ask you how you pronounce your last name. Is it Leisher?
Leisher.
Leisher.
Ty
Okay.
Leisher.
I knew I was going to fuck that up. It's
That's
okay,
okay.
we're live.
Everybody does.
It's Ty Leisher and
not a
Derek
problem.
Brodeur of Exit 44 Entertainment, and they're here to talk about all sorts of stuff. So, how's it going?
Hello. I hope you have the parental advisory flag on this.
We have the parental advisory.
As you drop in the F-bombs.
Everybody's used to it. I give you permission to as well.
Oh, thank you. It's very kind of you.
If you
appreciate it.
If you feel so compelled.
Oh,
I had
he will.
to because he won't
He'll feel
stop
compelled.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brad won't stop, and I was having to bleep out a whole bunch of stuff. Like by episode 3, I was like, "We're not doing the bleeping anymore."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't actually have any content anymore. It's just one long giant bleep.
Yeah. The joke there is it's me. I'm the one that always.
You're the
curses,
one
yeah.
that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So how's it going?
I see
To get started. Go ahead and tell people about your Exit 44 and entertainment and what you guys do, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, for sure. So, Exit 44 Entertainment is we're a production, development, and sales company. We specialize in horror, action, and sci-fi films. Part of our company develops films. So we've got 5 films in development in different stages, 1 episodic in development, and then the other part of our company does producers rep. So we help independent filmmakers find a home for their films and sell it to distributors and advise them on how to do it. And then we stick with them through the whole process of getting the film released, marketing it, and we're in it for the long haul with them. So if their contract's for 10 years, we're with them for 10 years. So it's a really enjoyable part of the industry.
So you might be the only person that says that.
I was going to say, it just depends which end you're on.
Just dealing with distributors is this really enjoyable part of the industry. So how did you guys get into it? Did you get into that because like doing your own distribution, trying to figure out your own stuff, or how did you become the guys who can do that?
Yeah, so the company started as development and production, but I worked in indie distribution for about 3.5 years, working for a distribution company. And once I left that company, I still had the passion for helping filmmakers find a home for their film. And I had the connections with the distributors. So I kind of, we thought it was a good chance to marry the two together. And we're really passionate about helping filmmakers get the best deal possible, get a second chance, because a lot of filmmakers only get one shot at making a film, and if it does poorly, then they never get a second chance. And we wanted to help them. Yeah,
it's so big. It's one of those things that almost like if you worked at a distribution company, which is really great behind the scenes look at it, but most of us only get experience with distribution when our film is done and we go try to find distribution. So there's horror stories. I'm sure you've heard them. Sure you've even seen them at this point. Like filmmakers that get sucked into the distribution machine of a company that just releases like 3,000 something titles a year or something like that, and they just get lost in the shuffle. And as filmmakers, though, the big thing is, we got a distribution company representing our movie, and like if you don't know any better, you can get totally screwed over. Screwed over by your distribution company because you got lost in the shuffle and you're expecting something other than what you get because you've never been through the process before. Right? Is that?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about it too is that I think filmmakers go into it with expectations that are not that don't align with that level of distribution. Mm-hmm. If you've made your own film, and a major studio did not acquire it and do the distribution for it, then your film is sort of a commodity at that point. And so you might have dozens and dozens of other distribution companies, but they know now that if you don't have a studio film, you have a film that's probably just like everybody else's. And then it just sort of immediately, they know that there's not as much value to it from the dollars and cents aspect. And so then they don't have to pay you as much for it, because it's not a big film. And I think that's the first disappointment, is that you've spent whatever you spent on your film, whether it's $10,000 or $200,000, and then they come back and they offer you $5,000 for your film, and you're insulted and shocked, and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? And but that's what the difference is between independent films and studio films, and how they get out there in the market.
In 2021, do you guys think that you have to go with a distribution company? Because a lot of people, it's been democratized in such a way that if you have a budget, you can do your own, you can go through the process on your own, aggregators to iTunes, all those places, and you don't have to go through like the distribution company, and you can almost remove the middleman. But there are a lot of things that even people, like if we were to decide to do that with our film, there's still a lot of shit we don't know, and there's a lot of work that goes into that whole thing. And it's a machine. It's like a spinning wheel of the thing. And if you're getting up the momentum to do it with one film, it's a lot to do.
Yeah.
Right. So, what do you think?
I think now is definitely more. It's definitely easier now to distribute your own film, to do self-distribution. And there's places like Film Hub, and ways that you can get it out there on your own. My advice to filmmakers that are considering that is always to try to go the distributor route first, because they've got the connections to get it into every house, onto every platform. They, no matter how big the distributor is, if they're a distributor of repute, they're going to have that access, and they can do it a lot better than you.
They can just flip a switch where you're going to be like sweating till 3 a.m. every night trying to figure out, how to get it on Redbox.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think for indie filmmakers, I would say it's better to put your focus on making the best film possible, making the next film, and learning the marketing aspect of it. Because making a movie, it used to be that making a movie and distributing it was the hardest part, but now it's getting people to watch it, right? Yeah. Because it's been so democratized. Yeah. So if a distributor will pick up your film, even if it's a revenue share, it's still more beneficial to the filmmaker because they don't have to do all the work of getting it up there. And they're going to pay a fee, they're going to split some revenue, but it alleviates so much of the work from you that it's worth it. it's the same thing with if you have an agent, right? If you have an agent and a manager, you're going to give them 10% to get you the work and to negotiate that work for you.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with a distributor, right? Mm-hmm. That's how I like to think of them.
Yeah. So, so let's say there's our feature film, we did not have a budget like that. We shoestringed the whole thing from start to finish. So any distribution, any money that came in from any sort of distribution would be almost like instant. I mean, it would start making money right away. But to get a film watched by people, you really do have to spend money to cast people that people recognize. There's a certain budget level that you kind of do have to hit so that it becomes a legit looking film and appealing to an audience. And that's like $100,000, $200,000, you know. It can be done for less, I'm sure, but, you know, like $100,000, $200,000. And the advance that you're getting from a distribution company is not that. Unless it's got like, you know, not Tom Cruise, but you know who I'm talking about. Just like a name,
big
like,
name.
You know. So what do you? How do you handhold your filmmakers who are like, we spent $250,000 on this thing, and they're trying to give me $5,000 advance? And and so many of us now have heard the horror stories of like, once you get your advance, that's like you're likely to never see any money again because they keep coming up. Oh well, we threw a $50,000 fucking party at Cannes. And that goes against your profits for your film. And it's like, but they were representing 200 movies that night.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, so there's a few things that I'll try to touch on. The first is to protect yourself.
Yeah.
You always want to try to negotiate for an expense cap, right?
Right.
What that means, and we try to get like $25,000 if it's a non-theatrical release, because that means they can't throw the big Cannes party and charge it against you. They can charge a portion, but eventually, if your movie makes more than $25,000, you should start to see some revenue, because you have that expense cap. And a lot of filmmakers and a lot of distributors don't offer that up front to filmmakers because they're trying to negotiate the best deal possible for them. And that's why I think it's important to understand the distribution aspect of it, understand the deal points, because you know, okay, we have to get this expense cap because they're not going to offer it up. They're not going to negotiate against themselves, right? Mm-hmm. The other 2 points that you touched on, the first, when it comes to, okay, they're only going to give you $5,000 and then it's going to be a revenue share. Mm-hmm. It used to be, you know, in the 90s and early 2000s and before, that, you know, a distributor would come in, they'd give clerks $1 million and they'd keep all the profits and that was it. But because the industry has democratized the technology and now anyone can make a movie, distributors have wised up to that. And now they're offering either a low MG, minimum guarantee, or a revenue share deal. But the benefit is you do see revenue as long as you have that expense cap, as long as you've negotiated a proper fee for yourself where they're not taking 50, 60% and you're getting a fair shake. Most of the time we negotiate, it's like an 80-20 split for the filmmaker.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is, how do we deal with filmmakers that made a film for $200,000 and are getting a $5,000 MG? And the first is, if you're getting $5,000, it should only be for North America. You shouldn't sell your film worldwide for that cheap. Okay. Because even if, you know, you'll get a better deal if you go with a foreign distributor, if you sell individually to, you know, territories.
And you guys help people with that too, selling to the individual territories?
Yeah.
Okay.
The way that we work, we're much stronger in domestic sales, but we have been growing the international side of our business. If the way that we work is, we represent a film for 90 days. If we can't sell it in 90 days to certain territories, the filmmaker gets the rights back.
To that territory.
To any territory that we didn't sell.
Right.
Okay. And if we, you know, if, let's say that we get them an offer for North America only, we'll then introduce them to a foreign sales rep that can handle the international side of it. But if you're a filmmaker and you made a $200,000 movie and you have $15,000 in an MG, the best thing that I can say is learn marketing. Spend a lot of time, and I know it's a daunting topic. Either spend time to learn or hire a publicist, hire a marketing team, because that's where you'll see the return.
I have a friend who's got a film out right now. She made it on her own, like she and her friends. I don't know how much money they spent on it. It was more than by about 4 or 5 times what we spent on our film.
Yeah.
But it was done. It was in festivals. It was winning some awards as a horror film, but it didn't really ever start to get any traction until. Her PR team, because she's an actress and she has a PR team that work with her, when she needs something promoted, until her PR team got her, I think she got an interview in Film Threat and a couple of different places that were, cool to her genre, like a horror film. And instantly it started getting buzz and traction from people. And it was literally just getting the word out that and we talk about it a lot on this show. It's like we are writers and directors and filmmakers and producers and all that stuff. But most of us don't come out of the womb go, you know what I want to do? I want to make movies, and then I want to go and tell everybody all about it. It's like it's more of a you're the creative type or the PR type. There is a hybrid that can be done, but it takes practice because you generally fall on one or the other. I'm not the PR person. We're working on
it. I think sort of your comments are sort of ultimately the all-encompassing situations that a filmmaker, I think if you want to just be the creative person and you don't want to deal with any of the business side of it, then you need to be able to have the resources to fall back on for that. Right. Whether you have friends that can do that or you have money and you can pay people to do that. But what seems to happen is that you get filmmakers who are caught up with the fun and dream and excitement of making a movie. They make the movie, they don't have any money left over, and then they're like, well, I don't know how to market, and there's nowhere I could possibly ever learn that because there's no internet in 2021, and they come up with all the excuses why they can't get to the bottom of that. And then you say, well, you can hire somebody. Oh, well, I don't have any money. And at some point you sort of just have to understand what you're getting yourself into. And you can I think ultimately the great thing about the time we live in is that you can learn all of this stuff. I mean, these resources are all over the place and they're free oftentimes. It's just a matter of having to sit down and get yourself out of your funk of, well, I'm just a creative person. I can't possibly figure the rest of that out.
I think part of being a beginner or a learner filmmaker, like way back, I remember when I was first starting, I was always so proud of how little money I spent on it. We made this with 3 people and no money. But what happens is that if that carries over and you're like, well, we made this for like $20,000, but we barely got it finished for that. And there's nothing left. So many filmmakers don't put any sort of contingency or marketing money in their budget that sits there and waits for you to be done so that you can then throw it at like Facebook ads or PR team or whatever. And it's one of those things that's like Steven Pressfield, like turning pro. It's one of those things you have to do to shift into being like a pro, is to like not brag about, we only spent $8,000 or we spent $8 on this shot. And it's like, who fucking cares? Nobody cares. And also no one's ever going to see it because nobody knows about it. So yeah. So we had Louise Levison on our show. Do you guys know her? She wrote a book called Filmmakers and Financing. She is the business plan lady. She like goes around and helps she has a whole consulting thing where she helps filmmakers write business plans for their films to take to investors. Her business plan model is from, her first claim to fame was she wrote the business plan for the Blair Witch guys. She's in Florida. She's a Florida person. She lived out in LA for a long time, but she started here. And her whole thing on distribution was, because we had her on the show and we talked to her, and she said, and I asked her about what I just asked you guys about distributing your own thing and not worrying about theatrical, but just trying to get on demand stuff or, all those other places. And she was like, no. You have to do theatrical. And it didn't sit well with me, because how many movies are out right now today that none of them that are making money but never went theatrical because it's just like it wasn't a Marvel movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what do you guys tell your filmmakers that you're working with?
I would disagree with her. What we have found through selling the films we've sold, through my experience in distribution, you know, if you're distributed by a big company, Sony, Miramax, something like that, then yeah, you stand a chance. But getting in theaters doesn't mean anything unless you have a gigantic marketing budget to get people into theaters. Yeah. It's the same thing with like getting up on iTunes doesn't mean you're going to sell a bunch of copies on iTunes. It means people can see it. That's it. Your thing's up on a marquee. That's all. For us, what we've seen is that the only reason to do a theatrical is for marketing purposes, so people are aware of it, and for placement purposes, right? So if you go on, and this may change a little, this may have changed a little bit, depending on the platforms, they're always changing, but iTunes and cable providers, they have a in theaters section. In order to get in there, you have to be in theaters somewhere. It's usually like 10 to 20 of the top 25 markets in America. If you do that, you qualify for that placement. Same thing with pricing. If you aren't theatrical, you don't get premium pricing, which is like you can sell for like $10 on iTunes. Yeah. If you are a theatrical, you can qualify for premium, which is like $20 on iTunes, right? Or Apple Movies. So my recommendation would be, it's always a crapshoot when it comes to theatrical and whether you're going to make any money back. We see it as a loss leader. It's a marketing tool. It's not meant to make you money. You're not going to make money on theatrical. You're going to get in 10 theaters. You can take your mom to see it. You can take the crew to see it.
Right. Yeah. It's like we all seem kind of like in the same sort of similar age range. Like when I started out as a filmmaker, that was it. If you weren't coming out, because I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and it's like if you weren't in theaters, you were a TV movie. You were straight to video, and that back then in the 90s, that meant you were a shitty movie that couldn't make it into theaters. But nowadays, even that saying makes me sound old. Nowadays, but these days, it really is like it's almost like most good movies being made aren't going straight into theaters, or they might play in LA for a week so they can be nominated for an Academy Award, that sort of thing. But they're not doing a theatrical release. And it just seems like, and it is, it's like filmmakers like it. Oh, it's on a big screen. That's, look at me. But if you're talking about getting to keep making movies, I've at some point just stopped worrying about it. I'm going to make a good movie. I'll try to make a good movie, theater or not, theatrical or not. Is I just want to tell a good story. So,
well, I think that's the key thing. Is I think everything with film, you need to know where the end goal is, and then you need to work backwards and make sure that you start at the right place. And I think the ease, and with distribution, you either need to have, like you said, a really good film, that's going to win a major festival award or just get some traction because it's a really unique story or told in a unique way. It gets eyeballs that way. But that's tough. I think, we all try to make a really great movie like that, but we don't always get there. The other side to that is at the beginning, you just you look and plan and say, okay, what genres are people buying? What actors do people pay money for? And go into it not looking to hire all of your high school buddies to be in your film, but saying, okay, can I get an actor, of some recognizable name to be in my film? Because right away you're going to have a lot more success getting eyeballs on it and getting some money for it. And that's a whole other thing. Ty and I, over the last year plus, we've spent more time on the phone with actors, reps, and managers, agents than anything else. But the majority of what we've done is all business stuff, despite the fact that we also have to crank out script pages and be creative. But we're constantly on the business side of that to get access to the talent to help you make the best movie you can make. So it's a win-win for everybody.
It's such that's perfect transition right into the film. You guys are filmmakers that are doing this also. You're like doing this for your stuff and for other people. So talk about that a little bit, like, because it's a massive learning curve, figuring out how to get a hold of an actor that you would like to send a script to. Like you said, talking to the business, and I think the business managers and all that stuff. And I think it's so intimidating. In fact, I know it's intimidating when you've never done it before, because you sort of like it's imposter syndrome kicks in. People are you're sitting there thinking they're gonna know I'm full of shit. They're gonna know that I'm just some fucking guy who's got a script that probably still has typos, all that stuff. And you just talk yourself out of it, and you freak yourself out. So talk about it a little bit. What did you guys do for your film?
Yeah, so it is definitely a daunting thing to be talking to reps and agents and managers and other producers and whatnot. But I think you have to realize, and once we realized this, it kind of clicked for us, I think, is that this is a business, and we're business people in this business. The agent on the other end of the line isn't waiting for your phone call to reject you. Like, they need scripts for their clients. They need projects. Mm-hmm. Even if it's not a project that they're interested in, they still have to keep their finger on the pulse of what's happening in the industry and what scripts are out there. And I think once you realize that, and you treat yourself like you're part of the business already, and you're bringing them something of value, I think it becomes a lot easier mindset-wise. Mm-hmm. But for us, I mean, we've done everything from working with casting directors to get out to cast, going after cast ourselves, and really what it comes down to.
Starbucks, just walking right up to him, they hand him a script.
Don't have to go that far.
Have you guys seen Bowfinger?
Yeah.
When he watched Martin shows up at Eddie Murphy's thing and like throws the script in his lap on the way out the door.
Yeah. And I mean, as funny as that is, like, that is kind of how it works. Like, someone will say, I don't really care about this script, but if you give me Tom Cruise, I'll give you money for this movie.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's told us that, but
one of the things that we learned over time too is that there's like anything, where like any industry or field, there's a certain language, right, and terminology and nomenclature, and when you know that, the other party, they recognize that, so like if you say you're into cars, right, or say there's some cars, and you want to become a race car driver, and you go to some place and you say, oh yeah, so where's that button thingy that turns the car on, and then like the thingy that makes it go forward. I mean, right away, someone's going to know that you don't know anything about cars, so you're certainly not going to become a race driver. And there's a lot of subtleties to that with entertainment as well. There's just the questions you ask and how you ask, the inquiries you make and how you ask them reveals how much you know about that part of it. And I say that from experience, because we would do certain outreach and kind of get not quite the response we wanted, and then we'd kind of pivot, learn, research, talk to folks, and we'd ask that question in a different way. Then we start getting answers that were in line with what we were seeking. So there's a lot of that.
Even ask the same people the question, but in a different way, and you get a different answer.
Yeah.
Well, but it was more so asking the question the right way, so that they know that you know what you're talking about, versus you being one more Yahoo that called them that day to try to get there.
Because I'm sure they get a lot of that. Yeah, sure. I'm certain they get a lot of that. So your film is 11th Hour Cleaning, right? Because I see the poster in the background there.
Yeah. That's one over here.
That's the one that you guys are done with and working on distribution, or like. I didn't get the full story. I just figured we'd talk about it here.
Yeah, no, for sure. So 11th Hour Cleaning is the first film that we produced as a company. It was written by myself, Eric, and Ed Marone, who also stars in the film. Mm-hmm. And we made it a few years ago, and much like all indie films that run out of money, like, we took a lot longer in post because we had to beg, borrow, and steal to get visual effects done and to get editing done.
It's nice to hear you say the same, say it too.
Yeah. I mean, it's a struggle, if you had all the money in the world, a movie could take like 9 months to finish. But if you're in the independent world, you got to make it when you can make it, and you pull strings and you ask for favors, and
you reach a point where you have to do a proof of concept. Like we have to prove to ourselves and other people that we can do it from beginning to end, so that we can take our own. For us, at least, it was like we need to be able to take our own selves seriously, and like we need to do it so that we can not feel like are we full of shit by saying this. So we went off and we did it. So it sounds like that's kind of like your process there too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and that was it too. I mean, we wanted to, you know, Ty directed the film, and we really wanted to get him his first feature under his belt. And so, yeah, we just did whatever we had to do, hired, you know, whomever we had to hire to make all that happen. And yeah, we've learned a lot from it. And like you're saying, it's more so just like seeing you just kind of get it done. You know, it's, and then once it's done, then it's done, and you've learned a lot from it, and you sort of take what you've learned and apply that to the next project.
It's mindset. It like you were saying earlier. It's like it's a mindset thing because in your head you can sit there and well, you know, I've made a dozen short films, but that's not the endurance required or the stamina required to make a 90-minute feature, an 80-minute feature. You know, your short film's 8 minutes long. It's different. We had a lot of that on our film when we had actors. Like the actor was like, because our script was overwritten, it had a lot of dialogue, so it was 115 pages, but we shot it in 9 days. But the actor was like, I underestimated the stamina required. I'm used to like 5-page short films. I'm like, yeah, fucking hey, dude, 10 pages a day. We have to do this shit. And he was on the last day. He was almost like relieved to be done with it. So it's
not almost. He was.
I think he was. And then he left. Then he left town, and we never heard from him again. So he's out there with you guys somewhere. So how did you raise money? Did you do a Kickstarter, crowdfund, or you just shoestring it by yourselves, or?
No, we raised some funds for it. Having worked in distribution and knowing how much you know, an independent horror film with relatively unknown actors would sell for, we kind of reverse engineered what that was. Yeah. And then we made our budget less than that, and we went out and raised the money for it. And then ran out of money. Yeah.
Ran out of money.
Well, I mean,
we reverse engineered it, and then it didn't quite go according to plan.
Yeah, well, we did reverse engineer. We did reverse engineer, but you know, everybody tells you never tell somebody what you spent on your film. Let them think whatever that they're going to think. But but how we raised the money, I mean, it was just pretty organic. You know, I mean, there was already somebody who wanted to invest in anything that Ty had done. And then I would just, you know, on the weekends I'd hang out with some buddies and just grab some beers. And as I was just telling them about the script and what we're trying to do, they were like, oh, well, we like to be a part of that. And so kind of before we knew it, we had the money that we needed. And, you know, and it was just because we were enthusiastic about it. Yeah. And we really weren't even doing any hard asks. We were just kind of sharing what we were up to. Yeah. And then people started just saying, okay, great. How much do you need? And it was pretty amazing because everybody gets really hung up on, well, how do you raise that money? And how do you do it? And how do you ask? And where are those people? And sometimes it's a matter of you just being authentic and genuine about what you're up to. And people say, wow, I want to help.
I think so too, because people can smell your fear. Like if you're asking for money and you're nervous about asking for money, they're like, something doesn't sit right. Kevin Smith, there's a long time ago when he said he was going to retire from filmmaking, which he never actually did. He did an interview and I was listening to it, and he said you basically have to act like your movie might be a dick jokes and fart comedy movie like he likes to do, but you have to walk around like your movie's going to save the fucking universe. And that's verbatim quote, and that burned in my brain about 10 years ago. And you have to just you have to admit that you have to come to terms with the fact that you have to make it happen. And so how long did it take you guys to raise that, to be authentically fundraising?
It happened really quick, mostly because prior to getting this film off the ground, we had another film that I wrote that we were really into. We had an investor on board, and he was this really wealthy real estate guy, and he wanted to make it for $5 million. And so I was like,
Okay.
oh, easy. Like,
Yeah.
this is how it happened.
Yeah. This is how it happens. This
yeah.
is this is it. It
Yeah.
started.
Yeah,
and then
and
and then
yeah, and then he we got everything ready to go right before we were gonna sign the paperwork and get the check. Like, we hired line producers, we paid line producers, we paid like location scouts to find a place in Georgia to shoot, because this was like 6 years ago. And then he ultimately just kind of disappeared. He just kind of ghosted us. And we took that and we were like, well, that fucking sucked. And we spent a year like woeing in ourself about it and what could have been. And then we decided, like, we just need to make something. We need to raise a small amount of money, and we need to make something. So we brainstormed one afternoon. We came up with the concept, which it's a supernatural horror film, and it's about a group of crime scene cleaners that get trapped in a murder house by a Nordic demon that tries to drive them insane and kill them.
Brad had that happen to him once.
At least he survived it.
Yeah, barely. My brain is like not working at all anymore. I'm just sitting here listening.
But so we pulled from that, and it organically became what it became. It didn't start out as that; it started out as something else, and then. But we wrote the script, I want to say, in like 3 months, and then.
But we sort of had the whole thing from script to money probably in 4-ish. 3-4 months. It happened pretty quick.
We started writing in the summer, and then we shot in December.
I speak for all other filmmakers when I say, fuck you guys.
And how?
Well, it took a lot longer to get the film finished.
We can't do that. But.
So then, so you sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna add, what I think really what helped us was like the focus of we're just gonna make something. And come hell or high water, we're going to make it. And picking a date. We picked a shoot date, and we worked towards that. And we're like, we're shooting this movie on December 8th, whether it's the script that we have now or a different script or something. Like, we're shooting this on December 8th.
There's something magical about picking a date and saying no matter what.
That is exactly what we had a lot of false starts of our own. We had a lot of false starts on our own. And once we said, we recast like 3 or 4 times because people, would disappear, disapparate, whatever. And then we finally said, okay, this cast, we have this guy's leaving town on this date. We have to shoot it by here. And we just, as soon as we said it's happening on that date, no matter what, it fucking happened.
Yeah. And that's how I think most films happen, when you're going out to actors, the first question that they have, aside from where's the money, is when are you shooting? When are you shooting? Where are you shooting? Because they can't say, we'll be in your movie with no idea of that, right? Their schedule is very strict, very rigid, and so they have, they want to know when you're shooting and if they're available or not. And so picking a date, even if it's a loose date, like we have a film that we're trying to get off the ground, and we're shooting in February. That's our goal. And so, working towards that and telling the actors and telling interested crew that's when we're shooting makes it a real thing. It's not like, okay, eventually, there's the saying that, you shouldn't say one day or someday, because that means nothing. You should pick a date,
So when you guys picked your day, when you guys had your friends, I guess friends and family money is where
pretty much
a couple of acquaintances. Did you guys go through the official like investor agreement stuff, or was this like here? So talk about doing that, because a lot of people haven't done that either.
And so I'll preface this with, we're not lawyers. We had lawyers do all this stuff for us, and so anything that I say might be wrong. Because I'm just remembering.
The directors are never wrong. You know this.
No,
directors are never wrong.
I'm always right. No, we did go through the whole process, and I think that also helped to legitimize it too, and to have that stuff ready. Like, you can talk to your buddy about your movie, but if you don't have the script or the cast or the shoot dates or the proper paperwork ready, then you're not, you're probably not gonna get them to invest. we had all that stuff ready. We had all of our ducks in a row so that when when we were able to chat with one of these investors, we looked legitimate.
Well, plus there's just the actual paperwork of, there's depending how you raise money, there's laws about all of that, right? And so you can try to raise money through Kickstarter, go through all of that pain of doing a campaign like that. But if you're going to raise private money, there's, the SEC has laws about who you can reach out to, how many people, what the dollar amounts are, and then invariably, again, as a filmmaker, you're like, well, shit, I just want to make a movie. Now I got to learn how to investing and now I got to talk to lawyers and they want to charge me $800 an hour. Yes. I mean, we went to one lawyer to try to help us with a private placement memorandum, PPM, and we met with him, and he came back and said, okay, my firm will put together this whole thing for you. It's $30,000. And it was all we could do to just kind of smile and say thank you for your time.
Thanks.
And we
we'll get back to you.
and then we were like, we said, okay, well, let's figure this out some other way. And so then, you just start looking around for documentation. You start trying to find other legal support that is able to work on a budget that is more in line with what you have to spend. And you know what? And it's not easy, right? Like you have to keep looking around and you have to ask people, hey, do you know anybody? Do you know anybody? And you'll talk to some people and you might work with somebody once and but you don't get the best vibe. So you just keep looking, and eventually you do that, you chip away, and then you find the people that, that do good work and can do it in a way that works with the resources you have. But like every one of those things, it's like, you sort of sit back and you're like, oh, one more thing that I don't feel like learning, but you kind of have to, and then, but once you learned it, then you're good. And that. So the next time around, you don't have to deal with it.
We say it all the time. It's like all the stuff that, like when you declare, I want to be a filmmaker, all the stuff you also have to become a fucking expert at just so you can do the one thing you want to do. It's like, I never wanted to be a web designer. I never wanted to do this, that, all that, just to talk to all that stuff you just mentioned. Never wanted to do any of that stuff. I just want to tell stories. But you have to do that stuff or have millions of dollars to get somebody else to do it for you.
Right. Or you play the whole studio route, when you just, hope that you can get in at that level,
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be a writer and that's all you want to do, you don't want to make, then that's fine. Like you can just write, you can just direct. But the more you know about the process, number one, the more you can speak the language of people, and the more you can get done on your own. And if you can make something on your own, you stand a much higher chance of being successful, of getting noticed, of having your next project get picked up. When it comes to being a filmmaker, nothing really happens organically at the higher level. You have to prove that you can do it. Even if that's in a short film, even if that's in like a phenomenal script, you still have to do it. So
what about your post-production? Eric's an editor. Did he give you a good deal on the editing?
Post took forever, and it's because when you have an independent film, that you just had the money you needed just to get it shot, then you have to go back to your day job, And as for me, I mean, I work on studio films. So, there's a 12-hour day, 5 days a week, maybe 6 days a week. And so there's just no more time left to do anything else, And so you just had to kind of keep pushing forward. And then eventually we hit some dead ends with visual effects and kind of got back around that. But it took a long time, mostly because of schedules, just trying to make it all work. And kind of, I think from that is where then we decided to sort of not pivot, but I'll use that word, to pivot of, let's stop trying to make a film for as little money as possible, and let's learn what we have to do to get somebody to give us a few millions of dollars to make a film. So you can hire the people you need, and the film gets done in 6 to 8 months, and boom, it's done. It's not taking 3 years to get done.
Yeah. We were talking. Go ahead.
Just to add to that, I think with us pivoting and trying to get larger budgets, we would not be able to do that had we not done this first film. Had we not made 11th Hour Pleading, because we've proven that we can do it. We've proven we understand the process and how to make it and whatnot. If we just come in cold and just say, hey, we have a $5 million movie. Do you want to help us make it? Do you want to give us money?
Yeah,
no one's going to.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. The answer is always.
Plus, you guys know the distribution process, and you've literally proven from your start to finish you can make a movie and get it out there. So yeah. That's totally.
Well, and then and that. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, well, on the distribution side of it, I mean, so again, like when you're going to make your film, you know, if you have the ability to go chase down studios, great, but then you also can do pre-sales deals with production companies and distribution companies, and that's a whole other thing, you know, where, you know, you have to pitch that, and you got to have, you know, then you got to attach talent, but just the certain talent, but it's a whole thing. But there's many different paths of getting there, but you sort of have to. It's tough to know which one to go down until you know what they all are, you know.
So, okay, starting to wrap up, if Brad and I walk in with our $100,000 horror movie that is obviously excellent film, like you got all that set aside, what do you tell those two guys about what they need to do? What's the advice you give them about crossing the threshold into distribution, getting a film out there?
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to work with us and have us sell the film, that's one thing. And for that, the only thing that we need to take the movie out and try to get it sold is a finished screener, a finished trailer, and key art. Most films, like the way that most people watch movies, and this is true of acquisition folks as well, is they look at the key art, like, oh, this looks cool. They watch the trailer, like, oh, this is great. Let me watch the movie. If your key art and your trailer are bad, chances are nobody's going to watch your movie, right? Yeah. So right off the bat, make sure you've got good key art, make sure you've got a good trailer. And if you bring those things to a distributor, they're not going to try to remake it. You know, they're not going to charge you because they have to hire a designer or an editor to recut your trailer or to remake your poster. So the more you can put into that, even if you've got money for it, you'll always find a better deal than most distributors will. Regardless of whether you're working with us or not, make sure that whoever is selling your film understands it, works in the genre that you work in, and has connections and has sold films to the type of people that you're trying to get in front of. If you wanted to go and sell it yourself, you can. You can find the emails of the acquisition people. You can find, you know, you don't have to self-distribute, but you can try to get it sold on your own. But what comes with that is, one, if they know the person that's emailing them, the email gets read right away. If they don't know you, you know, you go in that pile that I'll get to that eventually, right? So it's going to take longer. We've found that most films that we sell from the time when we start till when we're done is about 6 weeks.
Okay.
And that can be a lot longer if you're doing it on your own.
You guys have filmmakers. Go ahead. I'll ask you a question after that.
I was going to say the other thing is, if you do sell it yourself, you have to understand what the terms are, what the deal points are, what you need to ask for, like an expense cap. If you don't know those things, going with the sales rep is recommended, because you won't get taken advantage of.
Do you have filmmakers walk in and with a good movie but a shitty trailer, and do you help them?
Yeah, sometimes
clean it up a little bit, and the shitty trailer and a shitty poster, but their movie's great, or the other way around. Yeah, so we have relationships with editors and designers. We haven't made that part of our business yet, but we refer people to other folks. And we sold a film called The Haunting of the Mary Celeste, which didn't have a poster when they came to us, but is a phenomenal film. We referred them to a designer that we liked, and they worked with them, and they made a great poster. And the film has been pretty successful based on that. And I think if you look it up on Amazon or iTunes where it's available to buy, you can see that poster, you can see that trailer. But I think, we definitely help give advice, and we refer people. We never tell them, like, you have to go pay this designer to make your poster.
If you have the talent and the ability to do it in-house, great. Or if you know someone that can, great. But we definitely give guidance in that regard. So.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
My one question. You guys
You only get
talked-
one?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's only allowed to speak for one.
Jeez, Mike.
I get
Let
one.
the guy talk. Let him talk.
He's sitting right here. He could jump in anytime he wants to. You make it sound like I'm the bad guy.
You talked about the pivoting from being a filmmaker to a business person or money raiser. We are currently in that pivot. It's I just kind of want. Do you have like what's your like number one piece of advice for like how do you go from? 'Cause you got to force yourself to do all these things that you don't want to do and that you hate. Like it's like oh my god, yeah. Biggest piece of advice like how do you do the pivot? How do you complete it? How do you get over there?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the beginning of it is like you kind of have to shift out of the mindset of I'm an indie filmmaker. I'm going to show you. Like I think I'm not saying every indie filmmaker has that attitude, but there's definitely that sort of cavalier rogue
Artist chip on their shoulder. There's an artist chip on the shoulder.
Perhaps. And I think you have to sort of look at it again. You have to remember that these things do need to make money because people are putting money into those films. And also, I mean, in life, we need to pay bills. People want to pay bills.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to have something you can retire with, buy a house, buy a car, have a family, take a vacation. You can't do that making $10,000 movies that make you $30,000. So I think you sort of need to get to the point of being able to sort of realize what does the market want and which companies are making those films. And sure, you can go down the route of you can pitch to the studios, Miramax and Lionsgate and Sony and Paramount and whatnot. But there's also a bajillion production companies that will co-finance films as well. And the majority of the stuff that you see streaming is all from all of those companies, and so you work with them to do the whole pre-sales and you sort of learn what the business side of it and what actors' values are. And then you sort of have to then, look at, you're kind of making like a mini studio film, but you gotta, it's just sort of the shift in the mindset of having to go outside of your comfort zone and having to talk to agents and managers and talking to money people and being told no all the time and trying to figure out how you can reapproach that so you at least get not the no. And I don't know, it's a whole lot of stuff, but it's all doable. It's not like we haven't figured it out as we went along, but it's taken some time though. I mean, the other thing too, I was going to just throw in there, I'll let Ty jump in, but there's also seek help from people who have already done it. Don't try to do it all yourself. If you get producers, friends that have done it already, then seek their help or reach out. I mean, we reach out to a lot of people who we've never met before and just ask if, hey, can we meet with you? Can we pick your brain on this stuff? And then just start asking around. And it's pretty amazing what sort of help comes along when you ask nicely for it.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing is don't be afraid to make the ask, whether it's from the person that's an agent that or if you know an actor or, and even like there's the whole 6 degrees of separation thing is a very real thing. Like if you can find a way, go through IMDb and find the actor you want to work with and then work your way back through the network to someone that and start the discussion there. Like that's a real thing. It's going to be tough. And the more jumps you make, the less likely it is to happen. But, you have to make friends. You have to utilize your network as much as possible. I think for me, the biggest advice that I would give is that when you're making that pivot, that you just start treating yourself like you're a professional. I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but if you treat yourself like you're a professional and you understand how the business works and how things operate, right? I think that's another big thing is you have to learn who makes what movies and how does this conversation start? Something that we did early on and we still do if we see a film that we're like, how did this get made? Is I'll go back through all of the news articles about it. When did the actor get attached to it? What was the first thing that happened with it?
Mm-hmm.
Who was on the film in the beginning, and then what companies came on, and what did they add when they came on? Because people don't get producer credits and company credits unless they bring value of some kind. So understanding how movies get made and reverse engineering how a certain movie got made and released, I think is important to do. And then I think that's the big thing. Don't be afraid to do it. Again, this is a business. If you understand how it works and you understand who to approach and how certain things get financed, then you're 10 steps ahead of everyone else.
Yeah. Okay. So you're gonna announce when your movie's coming out, right?
Yeah. So
I'm just kidding.
I can't announce it, but I can say, we just finished post on it about a month ago. We've started taking it out to buyers. Okay. So hopefully within the next 6 weeks, we'll be able to say, when it's coming out. That's another thing. Realistically, from the time you sell a film, distributors need like 5 to 6 months to get it online, get it, pitched and all that stuff. So even if you sell a film now, it's not going to come out in October, right?
Right.
So we're looking at like Q1 of next year, February, March or something. But it really depends. Like if we find a distributor and they're like, this is amazing, we want to release it on Halloween, we're going to wait a year to release it. Which is, not common.
But it's hard because you make the thing for people to see it. It is hard to sit on it. Yeah. But ultimately worth it if you have a legit, release, happening.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, where do people go to find you guys if they want to talk to you or talk to you about repping them or just do you guys give out free advice on the internet?
I mean, I give out free advice. Sometimes it backfires and I get yelled at on Twitter for it. I will say
the only reason you're even on the show is because we both happened to be on Twitter at the same time one day, and you tweeted, "I want to have a mission to help 1,000 filmmakers get their films made and released." I think is what you said, and I was like, "Okay, well, how the fuck are you going to do that?" And and here we are. You talk. I
mean, there's a lot of people out there that charge for consulting. They charge for per hour that you talk to them, and the advice that you get from them. But that's not our business model. Our business model is we make money when we help sell a film, and we make money when we produce films. The key ingredient to both of those things are great filmmakers. Great writers, great directors, and people who get stuff done. And so the mission of helping 1,000 people make and sell their film, we have that because we want to help. We want to help people, but we also want to get connected to all of these people. If we have 1,000 directors that we know are fantastic in the horror space, we have a leg up on the competition. Yeah. And if we give out free advice to folks and we gain their trust, they're going to bring projects to us. They're going to bring their finished film to us that we can sell and make money on. So our goal with that is give out free advice, give out, information as much as possible so that in a year or two, when you have that finished film, we can sell it and make money on it. And you're not going to go with a different, sales agent or producer's rep for it.
I'm just saying it. I think you guys should start a podcast talking about this process.
Yeah,
it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work.
It is, yes.
You have to make it look good and sound good, and we're all technical, nerds. We don't want to just make a piece of shit and put it out because it's part of our business card. Is this show or your show or whatever? But you guys, just in the last hour, have dropped a lot of really solid knowledge that I can only imagine how good your podcast would be.
Yeah, we just need more time in a day. We start and stop so many of those things. Like we get excited to do one, and then it's just it's just. I mean, really, honestly, most of our time is spent trying to get these films made. And I mean, we'll get to a point when that machine is kind of running nicely, and then maybe we'll be able to have the additional resources to do something.
This podcast has only come back in the last few weeks because we took a year and a half off. Because every time we go into start working on something, or we get a couple of short films in the can or something, or a feature in the can, we run out of time in the day, and you don't. There's no new film reveries for a while we cut the film, or try to finish a couple of stuff or shoot something. There's only. I mean, and he's no
one
help.
and a half of people.
1.5 people. I wondered if you were tired of me saying that or not. There's 1.5 people. But, okay, so where do people find you? I think I interrupted you.
So you can find us as a company. You can go to exit44, the number 44, ent.com. That's our company website where you can find out more about us. We have a contact form on there that you can reach out. Or you can find us on Twitter. I'm Ty at Ty Leisher on Twitter. And he's Brodeur on Twitter. He's never on Twitter, so don't message him. But I'm constantly on Twitter.
You'll have to at me otherwise. No, you can at me, then I'll respond. But I haven't been much on the social medias these days.
I'm never on social media ever.
Yeah.
I love being on Twitter. There's a real community on Twitter of filmmakers and screenwriters, and I like interacting with those folks. And we've met some great people, and we're hopefully producing some of the stuff off of that. I can't talk about any of that yet, but there's a lot of good stuff.
Where'd you guys come up? What's the exit 44? Is that a symbolic reference to something, or is that just?
Exit 44 is the 405 freeway exit that you get to kind of go to where we are. It was kind of central to us, so and the alliteration was cool. We liked the alliteration. Yeah. I think I threw it out one day and Eric didn't say no. So I was like, yes, let's run with it.
I know I tell Ty that all of his ideas are terrible.
Yeah, that's how we.
That's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea.
That's how Super Mega Ultra happened.
Yeah, Super Mega Ultra.
Yeah. I wish we could call it Super Mega Ultra.
We just thought Super Mega Ultra was funny because it sounds bigger than this.
Yeah,
just Super Mega. That's cool.
Yeah.
No, when Eric doesn't say no, that's a terrible idea. I run with it. That's
because you gotta take the small wins as they come. Yeah. All right, well, that's it for this time. If you do you have anything else to say?
The end?
No. If you want to contact us, we're filmeverypodcast@gmail.com. You can catch our website at smuentertainment.com, and I'm Becca Meyer, and he's Balding Ewok on all social media. Guys, it was really good. I feel like we could keep talking. There's a lot more stuff I'm sure you could talk, but it's
we can do it again some other time.
Do it again
sometime.
Yeah, when you guys get your movie out there, come on.
Yeah, we'll come back on.
We'll talk about it. Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us on. Okay, see ya. Bye.
The end.
Film Reverie Podcast is a production of Super Mega Ultra Entertainment and is produced by Michael Beckemeyer and Bradley Kingston. If you're enjoying this podcast, please be sure to leave us a 5-star review in iTunes, and be sure to click like or subscribe wherever you find us. That's it for this time. We'll see you again next week with another episode of Film Reverie.
The end.